Some things don't rush you. They don't demand anything from you. They just wait, patient, unchanging. There's a favorite old road of mine that I used to ride. It isn't going anywhere. Same stretch of sun-worn pavement. The same leaning fence posts that look like they're held there by habit. Same breeze weaving through the fields like it's carrying a memory. It was just waiting for me to come back. See, I had to step away for a little while. My body started sending signals I couldn't ignore. My heart rate would spike. It would get to dangerous levels, and to be honest, I stubbornly ignored it because I wanted to reach a certain goal. More than once, I found myself laying on the side of the road, 10, 20, 30 miles from home, just trying to breathe normally again because I couldn't catch my breath. I wasn't riding to outdo anyone else. I was just chasing a better version of myself. 30 miles under 100-degree temperature out in the sun became 50. Climbing a hill in 8 minutes meant I had to try for 6 next time. The bar never stayed still. But somewhere along the way, I seemed to have lost the reason that I started. I stopped listening to my body. I wouldn't rest. I treated every ride like a measure of worth. And eventually, my body just gave out. So I had to step away for a while. And now that I've come back, something's a little bit different. Not worse, just quieter, slower, more peaceful. I'm relearning how to ride in a way that both pushes endurance, but also heals. A way that listens, not just how hard I can push, but how I can grow. Is there something in your life that might be waiting quietly for your return? No scoreboard, no pressure, just open space to begin again. I didn't stop riding because I stopped enjoying it or stopped loving it. I stopped because I physically was just burning out. What once felt like a calming rhythm had turned into something more urgent, something restless. I began tracking everything. The miles I rode each day, the speed that I went, how many days that I rode consecutively. Not because I wanted to compete with anyone, but because I couldn't stop competing with myself. So every week, I pushed for more distance, seeing how little rest I could get between rides, a higher intensity. I told myself that it was discipline, but in truth, it was something closer to stubbornness. I was ignoring all of the early warnings, the heat, the fatigue, the pounding in my chest. I'd made the ride a test before it even started each day, and I refused to stop, even when I knew I should. There were days when I would just lie in the grass on the shoulder of the road, dizzy, my heart racing, like it was trying to escape my body. And I'd stare up, look at the sun, and wonder how I was going to even make it back home. And still, day after day, I kept doing it until I couldn't. My heart rate became so unpredictable. I couldn't even go for a walk with my wife without it surging to dangerous levels. So I stopped. Not out of choice, but necessity. And in the stillness that followed, something started to shift. I gave myself time, space. I let my body settle. I let my thoughts breathe. And when I was ready, I returned, but with new intentions. So I'm still riding, still moving, but now the ride is a space again. Not always about performance. A place where I can listen. A place where I can learn to just be. Is there something, anything in your life that used to bring you peace, but now feels like something you have to push through? In a small town where porches groaned beneath the weight of quiet mornings, there lived a man named Simon. Folks called him the morning rider. He wasn't fast. He wasn't very flashy. But every day, just after sunrise, he would go out for a ride. He would come through town, steady as dawn. The baker started leaving rolls out in the morning, out on the sill. The florist would wave with dirt-smudged gloves. And the neighborhood kids just adored him. They'd line up at the corner, grinning wide, and scream, "Let's race him." And as he passed, they'd fly down the street on their squeaky old bikes. And Simon never raced back. He'd ease off a little bit and pretend like he would fall behind, laughing and letting their joy lead the way. Then one summer, Simon bought a bike computer. Just something simple. Something to track his distance a little better. Maybe his pace. And at first, it didn't change much. But over time, the numbers began to whisper to him, to haunt him. Average speed, cadence, time. The quiet ride became a checklist. He started riding earlier, harder, longer. He missed the roll on the sill. He stopped waving. He passed the kids before they could yell. And most days, he didn't even notice them anymore. One hot morning, chasing his best time, Simon started feeling a tightening in his chest. His world started to narrow and go dark. And as the pavement rushed up to meet him, he remembered the sound of the gravel, the burn in his lungs, and then nothing. He woke in a hospital bed. A doctor sat beside him, calm but firm. "You've been pushing too hard," she said. "And if you don't slow down, there may not be a next time." Simon didn't ride for almost a year after that. He eventually started walking and sat on his porch with a journal, drank his morning coffee. Eventually he started remembering things. The kids, the waving florist, the smell of the warm roll. One spring morning, he wheeled his bike back out, dusted it off, and went for a short ride. Nothing overly ambitious, but it felt right. And slowly, he made his way through the familiar streets of town again. Before he knew it, the baker's roll was waiting again. The florist started waving. maybe even a little bit longer than before. The kids, now a little bit taller, saw him coming and immediately yelled out, "Race him!" This time, Simon rode beside them, not to win, but just to ride. Now he still rides, and he occasionally pushes himself, but he listens. He notices. The numbers don't rule him anymore. And somewhere along the way, he didn't just return to the ride. He returned to himself. Have you lost the joy in something that used to bring you life? What would it look like? What would it feel like to rediscover that? Simon's story feels close because it is close. I didn't set out to lose my way either. It happened in increments. The ride, once a quiet companion, became something that I felt like I had to manage. I had to make improvements every day. I had to prove that I could beat myself from yesterday. I wasn't chasing accolades, just personal bests. But that slow shift in mindset, it added a weight and eventually crushed the very thing that I loved. I stopped noticing the wind in the trees, stopped listening to the rhythm of my breath. I only noticed the numbers. There's something humbling about lying on the side of the road, your heart pounding, feeling rocks pressing into your back, the sun glaring down, not being able to physically move, that makes you start to question yourself. You start to ask what you're really doing, who you're trying to be, and whether the path you're on is actually leading you home, or is it just taking you further away? During my break from riding, I didn't just miss the exercise, I missed the stillness of it, the reflection time, the way my thoughts could stretch out over the miles, settle into something deeper. And now that I'm back, I ride a little bit differently. I listen. I turn around when I need to and go home. And for the first time, I don't feel like I'm falling short. It's just part of the ride. It's not about going further anymore. It's about being fully there, fully present, and letting the road be a friend again, not a finish line. You don't need to ride a bike to understand what it means to push too hard. We've all done it. Poured so much effort into something that once gave us peace, only to find it weighing us down. It could be a creative passion. It could even be a spiritual practice. It's just any habit that used to ground us. If not careful, the soul can just grow weary from it. And not just from the effort, but from a misaligned effort. From forgetting why we began in the first place. When I stepped away from cycling, I didn't know how or if I would ever return. I only knew I couldn't come back in the same way. So when I came back, I started small, slow. I let the ride be gentle again. And as I did, something opened up. I remembered what it meant to enjoy just the movement, to breathe again, to feel that rhythm, to watch the world go by without feeling like I needed to conquer it. And that shift away from pressure and back to presence started to touch everything. I slowed my conversations. I gave myself grace even in my creative art. I allowed pauses in my day without guilt. I realized I didn't have to earn peace through performance. Peace was there, quietly waiting, and as soon as I stopped to notice it, everything opened up. So if something in your life feels heavier than it used to, maybe you don't need to push harder. Maybe you just need to learn to hold it a little bit more gently. Coming back to something after time away is rarely easy. That quiet voice, it creeps in, saying, "You're not who you were. It's too late. You've lost your edge." I know that voice well. I felt it before I returned to writing. I felt it before I started this channel. I felt it in the silence where dreams typically live. When I first clipped in again, though, I didn't know what would happen. I was definitely slower, unsure, a little nervous. Mainly that I'd get far away and the old issues with my heart rate would resurface. Even that I would immediately start chasing goals again. But I gave myself a little room with no pressure, no expectations, just a familiar road and a willingness to meet it as I was. One way and one new goal was making most rides in Zone 2, which forcing myself to hold back. And in doing so, I found something better than speed. I found a rhythm, breath, and joy in riding. And that rhythm started to spill over into my conversations, my creativity, even my faith. I began to rest without guilt, to notice things again, to let go of shame for needing rest in the first place. And sometimes we think we need permission to return gently, to come back as beginners, but we don't. Life has seasons. Wisdom is learning to move with them instead of against them. So if you've been away from something that once gave you life, give yourself grace to return slowly. There's no need to rush. Just return as you are now. Simon's story stays with me not because it's dramatic, but because it's honest. He didn't mean to lose the joy. He just got distracted by the numbers, by the metrics, by the quiet creep of performance. And that happens to all of us. We start something because it gives us joy in life. And somewhere along the way, it can very easily become something that we have to manage. Something that measures us back. Simon didn't quit forever. He just paused. He healed. And he came back with different eyes. He returned not just to writing, but to presence, to waving, to laughter, to the small rituals that made it matter in the first place. And that's what I hope we remember. You don't have to be who you were. You just have to make space to become who you can be. And sometimes all that it takes is a little pause, a little quiet, and a little listening. The road didn't change while I was gone. It didn't move on without me. It just waited, quiet, steady, and ready. And I think the same is true of a lot of the good things in life. They don't always vanish. Sometimes they just wait for us to come back when we're ready. When we can see them again for what they are. For me, writing felt different when I came back. But that difference is a gift. I'm not chasing numbers. I'm not proving anything. I'm just moving, breathing, listening. And if there's something in your life like that, something that you stepped away from, maybe this is the season to come back to it. Gently, slowly, honestly. No pressure. No need to impress. Just to return. Because the road is still there. And so is your joy. While it may not always be who we are, it can be about who we want to be. Thanks for watching.